Welcome to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? And I'm not talking about some ancient gold coin locked away in a museum, but a simple 1956 wheat penny that looks so ordinary you might have already spent one this week without even thinking twice. Because here's the twist that has collectors losing sleep and ordinary people double-checking their piggy banks. This tiny copper coin has been rumored and, in some rare cases, connected to values reaching an unbelievable $70 million. Yes, you heard that right, a single penny turning into a life-changing fortune, and the craziest part is that most people still don't know what makes it so valuable, which means the next one could still be hiding in plain sight waiting for someone like you to notice it. So before you shrug this off, stick with me because later I'll tease another coin that might be even more shocking than this one, but first let's break down why the 1956 wheat penny has become one of the most talked about coins in the numismatic world, because this isn't just about age, it's about a perfect storm of history, minting quirks, and extremely rare variations that almost feel like a glitch in the system. Minted in Denver during a time when the United States was booming post-war and mass production was the name of the game. Millions of these pennies rolled off the presses, but as always happens in large-scale minting operations, tiny mistakes slip through, and those mistakes are exactly what collectors hunt for, like treasure hunters chasing a legend. Now most 1956 pennies are worth just a few cents. Nothing special, but the rare versions, the ones with specific die errors, doubled lettering, off-center strikes, or even subtle anomalies in the wheat stalk design on the reverse, those are the ones that can send shockwaves through auctions. And here's where things get wild. There have been whispers and collector reports of ultra-rare specimens with nearly perfect preservation combined with dramatic mint errors, coins that shouldn't technically exist in that condition, and when something like that shows up, it becomes more than a coin, it becomes a one-of-one story, and collectors don't just pay for metal, they pay for that story, that uniqueness, that once-in-a-lifetime find. Imagine a coin that somehow escaped circulation, avoided scratches, retained its original mint luster, and also carried a rare minting flaw. That's like hitting the jackpot twice in one spin, and that's why the valuation skyrockets into absurd territory, because in the collector world rarity plus condition equals explosive value, and sometimes that equation breaks all logic. Now picture this, a dusty jar sitting in your house, maybe inherited from a grandparent, filled with old coins nobody bothered to check. Inside that jar could be a 1956 wheat penny with a barely noticeable doubling on the date or a slight misalignment in the design, something so small you'd ignore it, but to a trained eye, that's the signal, that's the difference between pocket change and generational wealth. And here's the thing most people don't realize, during the 1950s quality control wasn't as advanced as it is today, meaning more errors slipped through than you'd expect, but also many of those coins were used, damaged, or lost over time. So finding one today in exceptional condition is like finding a needle in a haystack that's been burning for decades, and that scarcity fuels demand like crazy. Collectors aren't just competing with each other, they're competing with time itself. Because every year fewer of these coins remain in collectible condition. Now let's talk about the Denver mint mark, that small D under the date. It might look insignificant, but it tells a story. Denver was known for producing large quantities, but occasionally inconsistencies occurred due to die wear or alignment issues, and those inconsistencies are where the magic happens. Some collectors have reported micro variations in the wheat ears, others point to unusual thickness in lettering, and while not every variation is valuable, the rare combinations are what push the price into that jaw-dropping range, and this is why experts spend hours examining coins under magnification. Because one tiny detail can mean the difference between a coin worth a few cents and one worth millions. Now let me pull you deeper into this. Because it gets even more interesting, there have been stories, real ones, of people discovering rare wheat pennies in the most unexpected places, old drawers, garage sales, even pocket change from small purchases, and while not every story ends with millions, it only takes just one extraordinary coin to change everything, and that possibility is what keeps collectors hooked. It's the thrill of the hunt. The idea that history might be hiding in your hand right now. And speaking of history, the wheat penny design itself, introduced in 1909, carries a legacy that makes it instantly recognizable. Those two wheat stalks framing the reverse side symbolize prosperity and growth, and by 1956, the design was nearing the end of its run, making later wheat pennies like this one even more interesting to collectors because they represent the closing chapter of an era, and people love owning a piece of history, especially when that piece might also be worth a fortune. Now here's where I need you to stay sharp because this is important. Not every 1956 wheat penny is valuable, and that's exactly why people overlook them. They assume it's just another old coin, and they spend it, lose it, or ignore it. But the rare ones, the anomalies, the coins that break the pattern, those are still out there waiting to be discovered. And if you think this story is already unbelievable, just wait, because later we're going to talk about another wheat penny from the 1950s that takes things to a whole new level, and trust me, you do not want to miss that, because if this coin shocked you, the next one might completely flip your understanding of what pocket change can be worth. But before we get there, remember this: the difference between ordinary and extraordinary often comes down to the smallest details, and in the world of coin collecting, those details can be worth millions. So next time you see a 1956 wheat penny, don't just glance at it, study it, question it, because hidden in that tiny piece of copper could be a story, a mistake, and possibly a fortune that most people would never even notice. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1950s wheat penny. Have you ever checked your coins carefully, like really carefully, because one of them could be hiding a mind-blowing $80 million secret in plain sight? And I'm talking about a 1950s wheat penny that most people would glance at and spend without a second thought, not realizing they might be letting go of a fortune that could change their entire life overnight. And here's the part that makes this even crazier: collectors aren't just interested in this coin. They're obsessed with it, because under the right conditions, with the right combination of rarity, minting quirks, and pristine preservation, this humble piece of copper has reached estimated values that sound almost unreal, the kind of number that makes you question everything you thought you knew about money. And if you're still here after hearing that, good, because what I'm about to reveal might completely change how you look at every coin you touch from now on, unlike a single year. Coin. The 1950s wheat penny category is like a hidden goldmine scattered across an entire decade, minted during a time when America was booming, factories were running full speed, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies to keep up with demand. But with that massive output came something collectors quietly pray for: inconsistency. Because the faster you produce coins, the higher the chance that something goes slightly wrong. And in the world of coin collecting, slightly wrong can mean incredibly valuable. Now imagine this scenario: deep inside a minting facility sometime in the 1950s, a die gets worn out just enough to create a faint doubling in the lettering, or a misalignment occurs that shifts the design ever so slightly off-center. Maybe a planchet slips through with a minor defect, and instead of being caught and destroyed, it gets stamped, released, and sent out into circulation like nothing ever happened. That coin then travels through decades, passing from hand to hand, completely unnoticed, until one day someone with a sharp eye spots the anomaly, and just like that, an ordinary penny becomes a collector's dream. And here's why the value can climb so insanely high: it's not just rarity, it's layered rarity, because you need the right year, the right mint mark, the right error, and the right condition all at once, which almost never happens, but when it does, the result is explosive. Now think about how many of these coins were made in the 1950s. Billions, yet only a microscopic fraction meet all those criteria, and that's why collectors are willing to go all in when one appears, because they know they might never see another like it again. And here's something that should really get your attention: many of these rare variations are so subtle that the average person would completely miss them. We're talking about tiny shifts in lettering thickness, slight doubling on Lincoln's profile, or even unusual texture differences in the wheat stalks on the reverse, details so small they require magnification, but once identified, they turn a common coin into something extraordinary. And this is exactly why you need to stay with me till the end, because the more you understand these details, the better your chances of spotting something valuable in your own collection. And trust me, coming up next there's another angle to this story that will make you rethink everything about these coins. Now let's talk about condition for a second, because this is where things separate the casual collector from the serious one. A coin that's been heavily circulated, scratched, or worn down loses a huge portion of its potential value, but a coin that somehow survived decades with its original shine, sharp details, and minimal contact marks, that's where things get exciting. And when you combine that level of preservation with a rare minting error, you're looking at a coin that doesn't just sit in a collection, it becomes the centerpiece. The conversation starter, the one everyone wants to see, and that's exactly why values can skyrocket into tens of millions, because at that level, you're not just buying a coin, you're buying exclusivity, history, and a story that no one else can replicate. Now picture this: someone inherits a box of old coins from a relative. They assume it's just spare change, maybe worth a few dollars at most. But hidden inside is a 1950s wheat penny with a rare die variation and near-perfect condition. They take it to a dealer, expecting nothing, and suddenly the room goes quiet. Experts start examining it, whispers begin, and before they know it, they're holding something that could change their life forever. That's not just a fantasy, that's the kind of story that fuels this entire hobby. And it's why people keep searching, keep checking, keep hoping, because the next big discovery could happen anywhere, even in your own home. And here's the kicker: most people still don't pay attention to pennies. They see them as the lowest form of currency, almost worthless, which is exactly why opportunities like this exist, because when everyone ignores something, the few who don't gain a massive advantage, and in this case, that advantage could be worth millions. Now I'm going to remind you again because this is crucial: don't tune out yet, because the deeper you go into this world, the more you realize how many hidden gems might still be out there. And while this 1950s wheat penny already sounds unbelievable, there are layers to this story that most people never even hear about. And that's what separates casual viewers from true treasure hunters. And by the way, if you're thinking this is the peak, it's not, because coins like these have shocked experts before, rewriting price expectations and setting new records when the right buyer meets the right coin. And that's why you should never assume you know a coin's value at first glance. Now as we come to the end of this journey, think about everything we've covered: the history, the minting quirks, the rarity, the condition, all combining into a perfect storm that can turn a simple penny into an $80 million legend. It's almost poetic how something so small can carry so much weight, and it proves one thing beyond doubt: value isn't always obvious, sometimes it's hidden, waiting for the right person to discover it, and who knows, that person could be you. So next time you come across a 1950s wheat penny, don't just toss it aside, take a closer look. Because you might be holding a piece of history that's worth more than you ever imagined, and that's where our story reaches its peak, because sometimes the smallest things leave the biggest impact, and this coin is living proof that even the most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary secrets waiting to be uncovered.